Melania Trump just met with Ukrainian children affected by the war. According to the Associated Press, the meeting focused on kids Ukraine says were taken or displaced during Russia's full-scale invasion. I'm going to lay out what happened, why it matters, and the broader context, quickly and clearly. First, the news. AP reports that Melania Trump sat down with a small group of Ukrainian children and families connected to wartime displacement, and alleged transfers to Russia or Russian-controlled territory. The point was to draw attention to kids separated from their homes and, in many cases, from their parents. Why is this a big deal? Because Ukraine and multiple international organizations say thousands of Ukrainian children have been taken across the border since the invasion began in 2022. Many were moved from occupied areas to Russia or Crimea. Moscow calls these evacuations or humanitarian programs. Kyiv calls it unlawful deportation. There's also legal weight behind this. In 2023, the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Russian President Vladimir Putin and Russia's Children's Commissioner, alleging responsibility for unlawful deportation and transfer of Ukrainian children. Russia denies wrongdoing and says it's protecting kids from war zones. Back to the meeting. AP describes it as a private, low-key event. No big speeches. The emphasis was on listening to families and highlighting the human cost of the war, especially on minors who didn't choose any of this. Let's zoom out. Wars almost always push children to the edge. Lost schooling, trauma, lost documentation, and in the worst cases, lost identity if they're moved and re-registered somewhere else. In Ukraine's case, the government has set up databases to track missing kids and is working with partners to try to bring them home. Some returns have happened, case by case, often through complex diplomacy and NGOs. The politics around this are intense. Russia frames relocations as rescue. Ukraine calls it abduction. International law looks at consent, guardianship, and whether a transfer happens across an international border during conflict. That's where the ICC stepped in. So, what does a meeting like this do? It raises visibility. When a public figure shows up, reporters show up, and the issue gets airtime. It can also move donors, unlock attention from officials, and keep pressure on processes that otherwise stall. What doesn't it do? It doesn't resolve legal cases overnight. It doesn't flip battlefield realities. And it doesn't replace the slow work of tracing and verifying identities, negotiating cross-border returns, or supporting families after reunification. If you're trying to follow this story, here's the core checklist I use. Verified numbers over claims. Independent monitors where possible. Concrete outcomes. Kids actually returned over headlines. Bottom line. AP says Melania Trump met with Ukrainian children tied to the broader controversy over wartime transfers. It's a spotlight on a real, documented problem that sits at the intersection of war, law, and childhood. The story to watch is whether more children make it home, and how the world keeps track.